Hey guys, today I'm going to be sharing with you my 5-minute go-to summertime makeup look. And probably, I was going to say a few weeks ago, but at this point, maybe a couple months ago, I did a video talking about tips and tricks on how to basically simplify or speed up your makeup routine. So I'll be using a lot of those tips and sharing with you why I selected some of the products, why I think they help speed up the process. But I also wanted to share with you that Credo Beauty is having 20% off right now. They're having their friends and family, which I think is so great. It actually stuck up on me. So I'm going to be using a lot of products that you can find at Credo Beauty, but really you can use anything. So I'll just be sharing with you why I selected these products, and I'm sure you probably have something in your collection. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the RMS Sun Cover Up Super Tint. So in the summertime, I really like to beef up and start really focusing in on my SPF usage. I don't like to depend on the SPF that is in makeup, so I do have a nice layer of SPF down. Today I have the Revive Skincare Soleil Superior SPF 50. I've talked about that a gazillion times, but that I have down. But I never think it hurts just to add a little bit more. So that's why I selected this one. So if you have any sort of tinted SPF in your collection, I think that's really great. I also like to focus on light coverage foundations because if I want to make speedy work of putting on my makeup, if you use full coverage foundations or a base product, you have to build back in a lot of what you're erasing with full coverage. So that's when you'd probably want to contour a little bit. Otherwise your face looks too blank. So if you use something that's just lightly tinted or just, not even that lightly, but just not full coverage, you don't have to build that much back in, and that's going to save you a lot of time. So this RMS Sun Cover Up Super Tint is just that. It is tinted. I am using shade Ivory, and I'm just going to shake it up for good measure. I'm going to pump some out onto the back of my hand here. There you can see it's got a nice thin texture, and just going to add this right on. So I skipped the whole step of primer, which I think if you have a nice layer of skincare down, you don't really need. However, if you feel like maybe you put your skincare down a few hours ago, maybe you did that in the morning and now you're just putting makeup on to go out at night, you may want to think about putting down a primer, especially if you have dry skin like I do, just to make makeup application just a little bit more smooth and flawless. But for me, I just put on my skincare. I'm trying to save time here. It is a step that I think you can probably skip. I don't think it's a make or break situation. So I'm just going straight in with the foundation. So there, I have a nice light layer of this tint. And if you apply any sort of base product with your fingers, you're probably gonna get the most full coverage out of that particular product. If you really want to shear it down or really ensure that you're going to have light coverage, you may want to use a damp beauty sponge. That will definitely give you a very sheer kind of coverage. A brush is kind of in between. So when you apply with the brush, it's not quite as sheer as a sponge. It is more sheer though than if you were just to go in with your fingers, because the brush does eat up a little bit of product. Your fingers really don't eat up much product at all. Now I've got a mixture of cream and liquid products. So I think for speedy application, what you should do is make sure you start with your cream products. There are plenty of cream products out there that I think work really well over powder products, but just to be on the safe side, because you don't want to have to start over and waste any time doing that, we'll just go in with all of my cream products. So I have a powder bronzer. I'm going to leave that for later. And I have kind of a cream. Yeah, I was going to say it's cream to powder, but this is a cream highlighter from Ilia. And then I've got a cream blush from Goop Beauty. This is actually for your cheeks and lips. So that is actually a pretty good time saver. If you just want to go in, add a little blush and then tap it onto your lips, you're kind of done with one step. I do have some lip products to share with you though. So this is the Color Blur Glow Balm from Goop Beauty, and this is shade Velveteen, which is, I think, described as a soft mauve. So this cream product has a really nice texture. It's not too emollient, it's not too dry, and you can see that there's a decent amount of pigment. So I'm just going to tap, and it has a really soft matte finish. And while I personally like glowy products, in the summertime, I really like to be able to shall we say, control the glow and not just look like an oil slick, which I do sometimes, especially if I go out in the Vegas heat. So this is kind of a nice in between. You get a nice soft matte appearance here. So nothing too dry, but nothing too oily, shiny looking. So I definitely would not shy away from any kind of cream products in the summertime because you can always set it down with some powder and it gives your skin like a nice glow, which I don't know, in the summertime, it just seems really, really appropriate. So I'm gonna go in next with the Ilia. This is the cream highlighter in Glint. And again, I'm just gonna go in with my finger. That is probably the fastest, especially if you're like me and you don't have a lot of clean brushes at your disposal. I'm the absolute worst. I have so many brushes in my to be washed bin. I think I have more in the bin than out of the bin at this point. So cream blush, cream highlighter applied, and something you could definitely do is use a blush that has a lot of glow to it. If you don't want to do the 2 steps, you can also just forego highlighter. Highlighter is totally not necessary. I always like applying it because I think it's a lot of fun. But if you're just trying to get some makeup on just to, you know, give your face a little bit of life or whatever, look a little bit healthier that day, I don't think you need it. I don't think you need highlighter. But let's say you really like it and you're really pressed for time, just use a blush that has a little bit of glow. Once you get that onto your cheeks, it's gonna look like you have highlighter on. So before I go in with my powder bronzer, I'm gonna set all of this creamy goodness with my Kosas Cloud Set Translucent Loose Setting and Blurring Powder. I have the shade Translucent Buttery. It's the one that has a little bit of a yellow tint, and just gonna set down all of that makeup really quickly here. Again, if you're really pressed for time, pressed powder may be a good option. I do really like the Kosas pressed powder. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I think the compact it comes in is like a translucent yellow. It's a lot easier and it's a lot faster to use. So that is definitely something you can try if you are, again, pressed for time. So now I'm gonna go in with the bronzer. I've got the RMS Beauty Redimension Hydro Bronzer in Beach Walk Betty. I believe there's 4 shades in total. This one is the lightest one, but it's such a beautiful, cool toned, like red-based bronzer that has a sheen to it. And like I keep talking about, I really like cheap products with a little bit of sheen and a little bit of glow. I just feel like it makes my cheeks look a little bit more lively. So when it comes to applying bronzer, I want to make sure that I'm not using too dense of a brush, like something like this Sonia G fan brush. Not that I wouldn't use that, and not that that doesn't do a beautiful job, but if I'm like pressed for time, I just want to make sure that I'm doing kind of like a light dusting of it, that I'm not really getting in there and like carving and contouring out. That just takes too long. Like that takes too long to get it like in the right place and then make sure it's blended out. What I want to do with bronzer when I'm in a rush and I've got 5 minutes to do my makeup is just put like a light kind of dusting of it. So I've got my BK Beauty 103 brush. I think most of the BK Beauty like powder cheek brushes would work because they're all pretty light and fluffy. And I'm gonna go in and just pick up a little bit and then just dust it all over where I would normally put bronzer. And I wouldn't be able to do this with a fan brush like that because I'd have to, again, like angle it just so, make sure I'm applying it just right in the right areas. Whereas a brush like this, I can be a little bit more careless with it. Also, because I get a lighter application, I'm pretty much ensured that I'm not going to give myself bronzer helmet or make myself look too Oompa Loompa or do anything like too crazy. Like I'm just giving myself a really light dusting of bronzer. And I do think this is a step, especially in the summertime, and for me, someone who's extremely pale, to do. This is not a step that I would skip. And then when it comes to brows, I love brow gel. I just think it is the absolute fastest. You can add a little bit of pigment to your brows if you want to do a little bit of filling in. You can set down your brows if they need a little bit of control, and you can kind of like plump up your brows all in like one product and sometimes just in like one fell swoop. I'm using the Dior Show Onset Brow Gel in dark brown, and it's just a really, really easy one to use. And this one is not available at Credo. All the other products I talked about are available at Credo. Again, they're having that 20% off friends and family sale. That unfortunately is not available at Credo. Okay, so for eyeshadow, I like to do, you guys know, a one and done shade. that obviously is gonna be like the fastest. 2, maybe tops, where I'll do like a light shade on the inner portion of my lid and then a deeper shade on the outer portion of my lid. So I am going to do 2 shades for you. And what I like to do is, and I'm not sure if I shared this tip in my other video, but I like to start with the lighter shade and then go in with the deeper shade. And that way I can use the same brush. So you want to choose a brush that is kind of like a jack of all trades. And for me, that's like a fluffy shader brush. So it has a little bit of flatness to it. So you can do like sweeping actions, but it's fluffy, so you can kind of blend at the same time. So this is the BK Beauty 206 brush. And of course, what comes to mind is the Sonia G worker brush, the worker 1 brush, but I think that's been discontinued. But she has a couple of worker brushes that behave the same way, where you can use them kind of just depending on how you twist the brush. So I like to go in with a lighter shade first, and then I'm not worried about a darker shade on the brush, any remnants of it, kind of making my lighter shade darker. I care less about lightening up a darker shade if I have any of the lighter shade left on my eyeshadow brush. Does that make sense? Like, I don't feel like I need to switch out my brush or make sure I clean it off or whatever. I do have one of these switch pads from Sigma, which is really great. I just leave it right here and I can just brush the brush off on that and get most of the product off. But if I'm worried about any sort of leftover eyeshadow on my brush, I think it's better to have like a lighter shade left over than a deeper shade. So I'm sure every makeup artist out there is cringing right now. They're like, just grab a different brush. But again, if you're really pressed for time and you just want to do your eyeshadow real fast and you don't feel comfortable just do one and done, I would grab a general kind of fluffy shader brush and I would use the lighter shade first. So I am gonna go in to this Mob Beauty shade right here. This is the M43 eyeshadow. It is a shimmer shade, and that could be important for you too. Like maybe you wanna make sure you use 2 shades that are the same finish. So I'm not gonna add any shimmer to like a matte shade later, which may bug me. So anyway, I'm going to be using 2 shimmer shades. I will reiterate though, it's really just the fastest to use one eyeshadow shade for obvious reasons. Okay, and now I'm going to go into this shade, which is more of like a lilac shade. It is M44, this shade right here. And I was so happy to see that Mob Beauty is at Credo, because for a while, Beautylish was their only retailer. Not that I don't love Beautylish, but it's nice to see Mob Beauty someplace else because it is a great beauty brand. All of their packaging is really, really thoughtful. It's all biodegradable, even though it's like plastic, but it's all biodegradable, refillable, everything. So super well thought out. Okay, so 2 eyeshadows done super quickly, 1 brush, that's it. And then I don't know, is eyeliner like a must do? I feel like some people cannot leave the house without eyeliner on. Mascara is much the same way. I feel like I kind of go back and forth with eyeliner. I feel like if I'm going to be applying mascara later, eyeliner's not that big of a deal, but sometimes I feel like I just need that little bit of pop that eyeliner gives. So anyway, I'm going to do that today. This is the Westman Atelier I Love You eye pencil in Coal Brun, and another brand that is available at Credo. And I just like to stick it right underneath my lash line and get it onto my waterline. I feel like that opens up my eyes, where if I'm sitting there trying to draw it on my actual lid over my eyelashes, I feel like 1, that takes a lot more precision and a lot more time, and 2, I don't feel like that necessarily like opens up my eyes. I feel like all I'm doing is kind of like, I don't know, just adding to eyeshadow, where I feel like we're here underneath, I'm really just sort of like adding to the dimension of my eyes. And most importantly, especially for this video, I think it's just a lot faster for me to do this, like run it across my waterline, than sit there and actually try and get it like perfectly over my lashes. That often doesn't work. So that's it. I don't bother with the lower lash line, again, because we're focusing on doing our makeup in 5 minutes. I am gonna curl my eyelashes though. If I don't curl my eyelashes and put mascara on, it's really pointless. Okay, so one of my favorite mascaras as of late is available at Credo, and this is the Sochi Peptide Lengthening Mascara. It's really, really good. And this has definitely appeared in my favorites. It's got one of those plastic bristle brushes, and I just do one coat and done. And then when it comes to lips, I think if you do something really lightly pigmented, like a tinted balm or a lip gloss of some sort, it is just the fastest. You don't have to worry about lip lining. You don't have to worry about your lip line and like getting it in there and like perfect or whatever, like you would like a cream lipstick or even like a highly pigmented like matte lipstick or something like that. So I just pulled out some of these Sea Silk lip balms from Mara. And I just started using these and they're really nice. This shade is Sea Latte. Let me just do a little swatch here. There is Sea Latte. And then this other shade that I have is Nude Beach. And these, I think you can tell, these have a little bit of thickness to them. They're really buttery. I really enjoy. So I'm gonna use the Sea Latte and I'm just gonna squeeze some out. And I do really like this formula. I think the level of pigmentation is perfect. It doesn't look like it's just clear. Like it obviously looks like I have a little bit of something there. It's evened out my, the color of my lips. The texture is really nice. It's like slightly buttery, but it kind of like melts onto your lips pretty quickly. It's not like just sitting on top. It's really nourishing. I am very intrigued by this brand now. They have a lot of skincare too. And then something I have really gotten, I don't know, addicted to are face mists. Again, I live in the desert and I have really dry skin, so I love a good face mist. I will spray them as soon as I wake up. I'll spray them all throughout the day whenever I remember, and I really like this Tata Harper Hydrating Floral Essence. This is such a good one. It's really refreshing. And the mister is really fine. It has like the freshest, like lightest floral fragrance. Oh, I really love it. So as a final step to your makeup, if you need to just kind of like set it down or you feel like you're gonna be out in the sun and your skin's just gonna be so parched or whatever in the summertime, I love a face mist and I love just all day, just spraying. This one is great. The Josh Rosebrook, the Hydrating Accelerator is great. I believe that's available at Credo also. So that is my 5-minute go-to summer makeup look. I definitely changed up my products, but I think I shared with you my thoughts on why, you know, like I wouldn't skip a bronzer. I would go for like a lightly tinted foundation. I have no problem mixing up some like cream and powder products as long as I set it down with some powder, especially in the summertime. So I hope you found this video helpful. And like I said, most of these products are available at Credo for 20%. And, you know, I had planned to do this video and then I got the email from Credo that they were having this friends and family. And I was like, oh, let's just mash these up. So I hope you found all of that helpful. And of course, you can just substitute all of these products for whatever you have in your collection. I hope like the tips that I shared would just help you with like creating a summertime look and being able to do your makeup very quickly too. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. I would really appreciate that. And I will see you in my next video.